last review we did was the Corvette, and that one was pretty nice. This one is 5 times nicer. Now, before you click off the video, because it's an electric SUV, I promise you by the time you're done watching, you will love it as much as I do. I wanted to bring you guys to the front of the car because there's one thing that kind of differentiates it from all of the other electric models, per se Tesla, is you actually have a grille. It doesn't actually have holes in it, but it kind of looks like it does, and that's the point. Behind this clear piece, there's the little stuff in there that kind of makes it look like a real grille. And this Mustang logo also lights up at night, just the edge of it, which is really cool. And one other cool thing down here, if you can see these actually open and close depending on how you're driving. So I'm not exactly sure how it works. I probably should, but I don't. But I know they do open and close just depending on what type of driving you're doing. And if we can pan over to the left over here, it's got real vents. Like, they're not fake. They don't go anywhere, but it goes all the way through. So I mean, you get a little bit of stability as air's flying through here as you're going around corners and stuff like that. Keeps the car stable in one direction with the front end. So the rear end, as you can see, you have your GT badge, and that's what, if you see a Mach-E without a GT badge, then it doesn't have the full horsepower. This thing comes with 480 horsepower and 612 pound-feet of torque, which is absurd. And in a few minutes we'll show you the 0 to 60. As you can see, the taillights have that unique style that the Mustang has, and they carried it over to this, which I thought was a cool design. Honestly, I don't necessarily want to call this a Mustang. I don't think it's a Mustang. I call it a Mach-E because it's totally different than a Mustang. The only badge you have back here is the GT, and if it wasn't a GT, you would just have that Mustang logo in the back. But you don't even have, like, you don't have a Mach-E, you don't have a Mustang or anything. It's just nice and simple, crispy clean GT. Some people like it, some people don't, but I think it's just a really simplistic touch. So here's the key. You got a little Mustang logo on it. I'm not sure how it compares to other Ford keys, but not a bad looking key. And you flip to this side, you got your unlock, lock, and you got your trunk open and your alarm. And I wanted to pop the trunk. The lights come on, trunk opens. Now this is a 4-door SUV crossover type of thing, but it actually does have good trunk space. I mean, this is something you could fit, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 bodies in. The S2000, you can only fit 1. The Corvette, you can only fit 2. But this, you might actually be able to fit 3. So it's pretty decent trunk space. You have lights back here. You actually have a 12-volt plug-in back here, which is neat. You have a speaker here. You have whatever this is here. So no, it's not a bad place to put groceries. You know, I've taken it grocery shopping and we didn't have an issue with any storage whatsoever. And then you also have this that, you know, keeps everything nice and clear from the window just in case people are trying to peek in and steal your stuff. So that is a nice touch. And then you push that button there and it automatically closes all by itself, which is a cool feature. As you all know, it's not going to have an engine up front. Down here, you pull this twice. I don't know necessarily why, but you do. And you just pull it up, nice and simple. So sometimes on certain sports cars, they'll have 2 hinges here because you're going fast, so you need 2 hinges to keep your hood secure, and that's why they'll have a double pull. So you'll unlock 1 hinge and then unlock the second. But this, you have 2 hinges. You still have to unlock it twice even though you have 1 hinge. So now you come to the front end and you have more storage space, which is actually really nice. When we went shopping in this, we could put cold products up here since it's not going to stay heated. So, you know, since it's cold outside right now in the winter, it's going to stay cold. You can see there's a hole. It's got 4 little holes down here, and Ford said if you wanted to use this as a cooler, you could. And you have cup holders right here. So if you were camping per se and everybody's got their vehicles parked around, you could pull this up, pop it open. You could shove a shit ton of ice in here, put in your drinks or whatever you'd like. Food, doesn't matter. But yeah, you could literally use this as a cooler. It's fully sealed all the way around. You can just close it and you're all good. You also get another Mustang logo right up there, which I happen to have just seen. Windshield washer fluid. This is your fuel door. Not really fuel, but your electric door. pops open. It's pretty big. This is your plug-in port right here, and then you actually have another plug-in port down here. I think this is the same port that Teslas use. Yeah, you just pop that baby up. You plug it into this one. As it gains battery, these circles actually increase, almost like, you know, your cell phone does. And come over here. I just saw this. Another Mustang logo, but it says horsepower. The paint is super cool. It's a very graphite color. I'm not sure exactly what the name of the paint is, but it's a graphite, and obviously you can see it's got metallic all in it, and it sparkles during the daytime. Sadly today, we did wash it, but it's windy, so it got dusty really easily now that we're out here in the woods. But yeah, it's actually a really beautiful paint color in the daytime, and so you could have got something like a bright yellow or a bright blue and have it really stand out, but I think this more subtle look to it, and then during the daytime it really just pops is a really cool feature. So if you see here, this is black as well. You almost got like a little spoiler right here, which is kind of cool. So yeah, this is all paint from here, goes all the way down, and it keeps it to like a very teardrop looking shape, giving it more of like a sport back look, and you know, keeps it more sporty. But if they would have actually done that and the roof would have cut off right here, you would have no headroom in the rear. So they had to create this little bubble here that goes all the way across to create headroom, but they made it black to still kind of have that deception that it's that teardrop shape. And it's way more noticeable. You know, we have a dark color here on black, so it's not super noticeable, but if you had like a white, cream, or something bright, this part really pops out and this part stays really subtle. So to the eye, it still has that cool little teardrop shape to it. Well, as you can see, there's no door handle anywhere, which gives it a really cool, sleek look. But as I've showed my friends this vehicle, they come up and they're like, they stand there and have no idea what's going on. And then I gotta tell them that there's a button. And as you can see, there is a button right there. And you just push that. Pops out about 1.5 inches. And then you just use this little piece right here and open the door the rest of the way. There's a peg that actually pops out when you push the button. So when you push the button, this peg pops out, and that's what opens the door. But if you were, for say, you know, you open the door, you go to pop it out, and it's not fully opened yet, it's still sitting in that resting position, and you put your hand somewhere back here to open it if you don't use the guard, and let's say you bump into it or somebody bumps into it and you think it's going to close on your hand, it doesn't, because that peg is still holding its tension, and it doesn't release and go back into the door until the door is opened a certain amount. So just safety stuff. It's got big brakes. First thing I want to do is start this thing on. And as you can see, you don't hear anything, but you got the cool little display. But one of the big things that compares this to the Tesla is obviously the screen. Almost every electric car now has a screen like this. But I think it's better than the Tesla screen because not everything is incorporated, and I think it's personally easier to use and stuff like that. You can hook up your phone, no problem, Apple CarPlay. So that's really nice. And you have ambient lighting. You have 3 different driving modes: Whisper, Engage, and Unbridled. And the fun thing is you can actually notice a difference between the 3 controls. Whisper, you can definitely tell it's got softer suspension, throttle response isn't as engaged, the steering is a lot lighter, so you can actually notice a difference. So it's not just buttons you're clicking on a screen, it actually changes, which is nice. And as you click through the different stuff, it'll actually change colors of stuff. Go to the Unbridled, changes everything to a darker color in the Whisper. So it's kind of cool, but it is light outside, so you can't see any of the ambient lighting, but it has ambient lighting, not on the door, but it has them on the footwells, and I think a little bit up here, but there's sadly no ambient lighting in the back seat. I guess Ford just cheaped out on that. But the steering wheel is nice, and I think it's better than the Tesla steering wheel because the Tesla steering wheel's got those knobs, those rollers. It's a very simplistic type of feel, but I think this is better, the fact that you actually have a button and a horn. I think the Tesla's horn is with a button. And if you're curious what this is right here, that is a sensor, as you can see. And it watches your eyes for the blue cruise that is offered in the vehicle, which is kind of like Tesla's automatic driving thing, except it's not as, I guess it's not as good, is what you'd call it. And it's not as good as a Tesla. Because Teslas can drive around on the road like no problem. They can stop at stop signs, stuff like that. This, you can actually have your hands free and it'll turn with the road and stuff like that. But it's not gonna know when there's stop signs or anything for that matter. And it has to be with cruise control. Center console doesn't actually pick up. It just lifts up like this. And then you have space here. And then you have space in here, which is actually pretty good. There's a decent sized little pocket down there with a little bit of carpet. But so you have a decent amount of storage, you have a decent amount of space. Of course, you got storage in the door pockets as well, which is nice. Just normal Ford stuff in there. Nothing too crazy. And then this material here, it's definitely not carbon fiber. I wish it was carbon fiber, but it's not carbon fiber. I don't know, it's some type of recycled deposit, but it doesn't look bad. I think everything looks good. And this material here is actually the sound system. There's speakers in here that go all around the car. So it's like you have your own sound bar in the front, which is cool. And the sound system actually works really well. But if you go back to the screen here, I don't know, most of you probably don't know what this says or know what this means, but it's called one pedal drive. And it is correct, where you would only have to use one pedal to drive. So when you let off the gas, it immediately starts braking for you. Not super hard, not super soft, but it'll start slowing you down for you. And that's just regenerative braking. So it's actually putting more power back into the battery. So you can kind of, have a little bit more fuel efficiency in your electric car. Okay, so one other cool thing in this interior that kind of makes it different from a lot of other cars is the roof. You could get a roof here, and I assume that with the roof you could also get a sunroof. But I think the glass option is pretty cool. Here's the gear selector. I think there's a lot of manufacturers that are doing this now, and some people don't like it, but I think it's really easy. It's just, you just slide it over. It's really simple. Now we're driving the 2022 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, which the GT part is important. It's gonna play a huge role here in a minute. And right now we're driving in whisper mode. And so the suspension's a little bit softer, steering's a little bit lighter, and the throttle response isn't as strong. But we can put it in unbridled, and we actually pick up speed a little bit from your throttle position. I don't really use the Engage very much because I'm not a very in-between type of person. I either want to be comfortable or I want to be going hard. So it's usually either whisper or unbridled for me. But this is my mother's car, so I'm not driving it very much other than instances and occasions like this. But I was concerned when she first wanted the vehicle because one, it was all electric, and two, it was a Ford, and three, it was a Mustang. So one, I wasn't sure how it was going to handle, if it was going to be a good handling vehicle. I had no expectations for it, and that's why it blew all my expectations, because I wasn't expecting much. Now, Ford, when they were building this car, they wanted it to make it handle like a Mustang if they were going to give it the Mustang name. And I can tell you now that they've done a phenomenal job of making this thing handle like a sports car. Like, it does handle like a sports car, and it's hard to say because it's a four-door crossover, but it really does handle really nicely. I mean, when you go into the corner, the steering isn't super light. It actually has some weight to it. It's very responsive. It's a little numb off center, as you guys can see, but the moment you get into the corner, it just dives right in. And since it's all-wheel drive, obviously it just hooks up very, very well. As I was starting to push it through the corners in the all-wheel drive, there was one thing I was concerned about, and that was understeer. But so far, I haven't really caught any. It's been very, very nice. It feels very, very planted. Since you have such big batteries in this thing, it has very low center of gravity, which helps with the electric cars. We are currently at 77% battery, which is 100. I don't know if that's gonna work. I'll say that. I'll just talk about it.
We'll keep at it.
We're just gonna talk about it. It has 148 miles of range with that 77%. Now, Ford said during the winter or really cold temperatures, you're actually gonna get less mileage in the car. So during the winter, you may get 190 to 200 miles or 170 miles of full range, and that's not very good. But during the spring and summer, and when it actually warms up a little bit, that's where you can get the full 270 miles of range, which isn't I guess, wonderful. The Tesla Model Y Performance, which is a direct competitor to this, has a 300-mile range. And so that's a little bit better, and it's a little bit quicker. But I still think this is a better car than the Tesla Model Y. There was an option you could have gotten from Ford, which my parents could have gotten but chose not to. If you pay an extra $5,000, you can get a quicker 0 to 60. So instead of 3.8, you could get a 3.5. So the one we're driving right now is a 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, which I will go over that in a few minutes. But yeah, you could get a 3.5. And then they also tune the suspension a little bit. They tune the chassis a little bit. They do a little few tweaks here and there to make it better handling. And I think they also changed the all-wheel drive system, the way the torque vectoring works and all that cool stuff. But yeah, we didn't get that, so we just have what we have, which I couldn't necessarily really imagine them making this that much better. Not because it's an exceptional platform, but because it's already better than what I thought it could be. So the fact that they could tweak it even more and make it even better is kind of crazy. If you guys did hear an engine sound, if you look at the screen here where it says propulsion sound, if you have it on, it'll actually play a V8 sound through the interior speakers. So it sounds like you have, like, you know, big block V8 instead of like a regular Mustang, like a 5.0. But you could turn it off, and you know, now when you accelerate, it even gets a little bit quieter in the car. But when you accelerate, it makes no sound. It's just quiet. You can just hear the air and the wind and the tires. Which you do notice road sound a lot more in this car because of the fact that it's not making any noise from the motor. All right, we're gonna do a quick 0 to 60 test. So 3.8 seconds apparently. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty goddamn quick. I will say that.